In 1937, in a village near Tikrit, Iraq, a shepherd named Hussein Abd al-Majid lived with his pregnant wife, Subhatolfa. She was due to give birth to Saddam Hussein in the coming months. But before Saddam was born, his father died. This tragedy, combined with the recent death of their other son, sent Saddam's mother into a deep depression. She became superstitious, believing the pregnancy was a source of bad luck. Financially weak, she felt there was no point in giving birth to the child. Before she could take a drastic step, a nearby Jewish family intervened, convinced her otherwise, and saved the child. On April 28, 1937, that child was born and named Saddam Hussein Abd al-Majid al-Tikriti. His mother struggled as a single parent in dire financial conditions. In 1940, she sent 3-year-old Saddam to live in Baghdad with her brother, Karala Talfa, who was in the Iraqi army. She later remarried a man named Ibrahim al-Hassan. Saddam's life with his new stepfather was brutal. He was beaten, starved, and forced to steal instead of going to school. It was one of the toughest times of his life. In 1947, when Saddam was 10, his uncle was released from prison. Saddam ran away from his stepfather's house to live with his uncle in Baghdad. His uncle enrolled him in school, and in his free time, Saddam sold cigarettes to earn money. As he grew up, he was completely influenced by his uncle's nationalist ideologies. He became fiercely opposed to the British-backed puppet government in Iraq. He believed in Sunni supremacy and a unified Arab nation that would end Western influence in the Middle East. Saddam saw his uncle as a hero and began joining anti-government protests at a young age. He dreamed of joining the army like his uncle, but he failed the entrance exams. In 1954, his uncle enrolled him in the College of Law at the University of Baghdad. In college, Saddam became a student leader, surrounding himself with street boys and local goons. He would carry a gun during protests and force shopkeepers who supported the government to shut down. His influence in the area began to grow. Around this time, he learned about the Ba'ath Party, a socialist party aiming to unite all Arab countries. Saddam was so impressed by their ideology that in 1955, he dropped out of college and joined the party. With no personal life, he dedicated himself to party meetings and protests, quickly rising through the ranks. By 1958, Iraq was in turmoil, with the Ba'ath Party, army officers, and citizens all opposing the British-backed monarchy. On July 14, 1958, army officers led by Abd al-Karim Qasim and Abdul Salam Orif led a coup. They killed the king, ended the monarchy, and took control of Iraq. Qasim became prime minister, and the Ba'ath Party supported the new government. But after becoming PM, Qasim angered the Baathists and the US by building close military and economic ties with the Soviet Union. In early 1959, America's CIA began contacting the Ba'ath Party. Together, they planned to remove Qasim from power. This collaboration is confirmed by former US ambassadors, Ba'ath Party officials, and declassified government reports. The Ba'ath Party chose its capable and hardworking member, Saddam Hussein, for the mission. On October 7, 1959, Saddam and 6 other party members ambushed Prime Minister Qasim's convoy on Al-Rashid Street in Baghdad. They opened fire, killing the driver and wounding Qasim in the shoulder, but the Prime Minister survived. Saddam himself was shot in the leg during the failed attempt. The plan failed, and an enraged Qasim ordered a crackdown on the Ba'ath Party and Saddam. Overnight, the 22-year-old Saddam became the most wanted man in Iraq. He escaped and hid on a farm in Ad-Dor, the same area where he would be captured decades later. The Ba'ath Party leadership, with CIA help, smuggled Saddam first to Syria and then to Egypt. In Egypt, Saddam was given political asylum and continued to strengthen the Ba'ath Party. He remained in continuous contact with CIA officers at the US Embassy, who funded his living and training expenses. Back in Iraq, on February 8, 1963, the Ba'ath Party, with CIA help, successfully led another coup. They entered the Ministry of Defense, shot Prime Minister Qasem, and seized power. Saddam was called back from Egypt and appointed head of the party's intelligence wing. His job was to eliminate anyone who worked against the Ba'ath Party. The CIA's role in the coup was later confirmed in declassified U.S. documents. But just months later, in November 1963, a power struggle led to another coup. The new president, Arif, banned the Ba'ath Party and threw its leaders, including Saddam, into prison. Saddam remained in prison until July 1966, when he bribed a prison van driver and escaped. He hid in Tikrit and began secretly rebuilding the Ba'ath Party. Finally, his hard work paid off. On July 17, 1968, Saddam led another successful coup, re-establishing the Ba'ath Party's government in Iraq. Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr became president, and Saddam, at age 31, was officially appointed Iraq's vice president. Saddam consolidated his power, creating a vast intelligence network to spy on every government organization, including the military. He placed his relatives in key positions and ruthlessly removed any perceived threat. On June 1, 1972, Saddam nationalized Iraq's oil industry, kicking out the Western companies that controlled it. This was his first major blow to the USA, but it made him a national hero and politically stronger in Iraq. On July 16, 1979, Saddam forced the aging President al-Bakr to resign and became president himself. Just days later, he cemented his rule with an infamous act of brutality. He convened a meeting of 400 top party leaders and brought a man to the stage who confessed to plotting against him. Saddam then calmly stood up, smoking a cigar, and read a list of 68 other conspirators from the audience. As each name was called, the terrified person was dragged away by military forces. The entire event was broadcast live on Iraqi television. Afterward, 22 of the 68 people were executed in front of a crowd. At the same time, another problem was brewing next door in Iran. The 1979 Islamic Revolution brought Ayatollah Khomeini to power, who openly threatened to export his revolution. Saddam, a Sunni dictator in a Shia-majority country, feared this model could be repeated in Iraq. Tensions escalated over a shared river vital for Iraq's oil exports, the Shatt al-Arab. Feeling he had U.S. support, Saddam attacked Iran on September 22, 1980. He expected a quick victory, but the war dragged on for 8 brutal years. The U.S. provided Saddam with arms, loans, and satellite intelligence. This intelligence was used to help Saddam carry out chemical attacks on Iranian troops. During the war, after a failed assassination attempt on Saddam in the Shia-majority town of Dujail in 1982, his forces retaliated. Hundreds of men, women, and children were imprisoned, and 148 people were executed without trial. This incident would later be the primary charge that led to his hanging. In 1988, Saddam unleashed chemical bombs on the Kurdish town of Halabja, accusing them of siding with Iran. Gases like sarin and mustard gas killed thousands and left over 10,000 disabled. The war finally ended in 1988 with a ceasefire, but it left Iraq with a staggering debt of $130 billion. Kuwait, which had loaned Iraq $14 billion, demanded its money back. Saddam accused Kuwait of overproducing oil and slant drilling to steal Iraqi resources. On August 2, 1990, Saddam's forces invaded and took control of Kuwait. This time, Saddam had crossed a line that directly threatened U.S. interests, and his downfall began. The UN immediately condemned the invasion and imposed heavy sanctions. On January 17, 1991, the U.S. led a coalition of 42 countries in Operation Desert Storm, expelling Saddam from Kuwait. Saddam's defiance continued, and in 1993, he plotted to assassinate former U.S. President George Bush during a visit to Kuwait. The plot was foiled, but the enmity between Saddam and the U.S. was now official. Then, on September 11, 2001, the 9/11 attacks occurred in the U.S. This changed everything. The US adopted a new strategy. Any 1% doubt of a threat would be treated as a 100% certainty. US officials began publicly linking Saddam to 9/11s and weapons of mass destruction, suggesting he might give chemical weapons to al-Qaeda. Though no direct evidence of Saddam's involvement in 9/11s ever surfaced, the narrative was set. On March 17, 2003, President Bush gave Saddam Hussein 48 hours to leave Iraq or face an attack. Saddam refused, and on March 19, US stealth bombers began striking Baghdad. Saddam escaped the initial bombardment by hiding in heavily fortified bunkers. By April, US forces entered Baghdad, and Saddam, along with his two sons, fled. On July 22, 2003, Saddam's sons, Uday and Qusay, were tracked down and killed by US forces in Mosul. The hunt for Saddam himself intensified. US intelligence changed tactics, focusing on Saddam's childhood relatives and inner circle. This led them to the al-Muslat brothers, who were arranging Saddam's hideouts. On December 12, 2003, US forces arrested Ibrahim al-Muslat. He broke under interrogation and revealed Saddam's location to farmhouses in Ad-Dor, near Tikrit. The locations were codenamed Wolverine 1 and Wolverine 2. On the night of December 13, 2003, 600 US soldiers launched Operation Red Dawn. They surrounded the area, cut the power, and began searching. After hours of searching, the captured al-Muslat brother pointed to an old mat on the ground. Beneath the mat and some soil, soldiers found a small hole covered with styrofoam. Suddenly, they heard a cough from inside the hole. A voice then called out, "I'm Saddam Hussein, Iraq's elected president. I'm ready to talk." At 8:26 p.m., Saddam was pulled from his hiding place, a spider hole. He was handed over to the new Iraqi government for trial. He was charged and convicted for the 1980 Tadou jail massacre. On December 30, 2006, Saddam Hussein was hanged to death. He was buried the next day in al-Lajah, the village where his life began. After his fall, Iraq's oil fields were once again open to Western private companies like BP, Shell, and ExxonMobil. To this day, no direct link has ever been found between Saddam and the 9/11 attacks, and the new weapons of mass destruction used to justify the war were never proven to exist.